My son kicked me out of the house, not knowing I took 9.5 million pesos with me. 3 years later, he showed up at my door with a baby in his arms, crying and begging me to help him. I'm glad you're here. Stay until the end and tell me from what city you're watching my story. I want to know how far it's reached. I'm Elvira Moreno, 75 years old, and I'm a widow. I live in San Antonio. That night, I was in the kitchen, my hands soaked as I washed a pot of beans. Emilio, my 5-year-old grandson, was rolling on the floor, kicking a red plastic ball. Renata, my daughter-in-law, was sitting at the table, folding napkins one by one, her brow furrowed. As I scrubbed the pot, I kept glancing at the boy, afraid he'd get too close to the gas stove. Suddenly, Leonardo, my son, walked in. He stood behind me for a moment, without saying a word. Then he spoke, his voice flat, as if he were reading the news. Mom, pack your bags. I stopped, soapy water still dripping from my hands. I turned and looked him straight in the eye. What did you say, Leonardo? I didn't hear you right. I thought I'd misheard, or that it was a joke. But he repeated it, this time louder, as if he wanted the whole neighborhood to hear. I said, pack your bags, tonight. I stood still, the damp rag in my hand. Why? What did I do to make you say that? I asked, my voice trembling. Leonardo twisted his mouth, his voice as cold as ice. The simple fact that you're still here is already a big problem. If you really cared about me, do me a favor and leave. Renata lifted her head and chimed in. That's right. Your presence just messes everything up. I have to rewash the clothes you wash because they come out dirty. And the kitchen always stinks of oil, of onions. It's disgusting. She spoke without looking at me, folding the napkins forcefully, as if punishing me with each crease. Leonardo finished, his voice firm. We can't take it anymore. Please, leave right now. I stood there, unable to say anything. I felt a lump in my throat, as if someone were squeezing it. I dried my hands on my apron and walked out of the kitchen, my feet feeling as heavy as if they were dragging lead. I went into my room, opened the old closet, and took out my worn-out gray cloth handbag. I packed a couple of changes of underwear, my wool sweater, the bottle of pills for my back pain, and a small photo album I always kept hidden under my pillow. I glanced at the picture frame on the tabla photo of the whole family on Emilio's 1-month birthday. Everyone smiling. But I didn't take it. I didn't take it with me. Emilio came running in, hugged my leg, and said in his clear voice, Where are you going, Grandma? Take me with you. He looked at me with those big round eyes. I bent down to hug him, but before I could say anything, Renata burst in and yanked him away roughly. Get out of here, Emilio, she yelled, and slammed the door shut, not even looking at me. I picked up my old suitcase, its zipper crooked, and walked toward the front door. Leonardo was already there, arms crossed. Renata dragged Emilio to the back room without turning around. I walked past Leonardo, slowly, hoping he'd say something in explanation, an apology, anything. But he didn't. He just looked at me, his eyes cold. Seeing me hesitate, he reached out and gently pushed me in the back. The door closed behind me. The dry click of the lock sounded as if it cut my life in two. I stood on the stoop, looking at the closed wooden door. A minute passed before I went down. I walked out of the gate, walked 3 blocks without thinking, my mind blank. I went into a small convenience store, bought a bottle of water and a cold bolillo roll, and paid with some loose change I had in my pocket. I kept walking, aimlessly, until the streetlights came on. I sat on a park bench, looking at my old phone. The screen was black, no calls, no messages. No one was asking where their mother was. I took off my worn-out shoes, put my feet up on the bench, and rested my face on my knees. The night wind was icy, but I no longer had the strength to feel it. I fell asleep, hugging the worn-out suitcase tightly. I woke up when there was still fog, the pre-dawn chill having seeped into my bones. My clothes were a little damp from the dew, and my back ached as if someone had sat on me. I sat up on the bench, rubbing my hands to warm them, looking at the old suitcase at my feet. The park was empty, only the chirping of a few birds could be heard in the distance. A woman selling tamales passed by, pushing her squeaky cart. She stopped, looked at me, and pulled a steaming tamale from the pot, wrapped it in corn husks, and placed it in my hand. Eat this, ma'am, she said in a deep voice. I took the warm tamale and murmured, Thank you so much, really. She just nodded, without asking anything, and continued on her way. The cart's wheels creaked on the cobblestones. I ate the tamale slowly. The corn aroma calmed my hunger. When I finished, I got up, picked up the suitcase, and dragged it toward the bus terminal on the west side of the city. Every step felt like carrying stones in my feet, but I didn't stop. The streets were starting to fill up. The noise of cars was rising, but I only saw my old shoes and kept walking. After a while, I sat down to rest under a mango tree, looking at my worn-out suitcase. I remembered the days when we first arrived in San Antonio with my husband and Leonardo, who was just a baby then. We rented a tiny room with stained walls and a tin roof that dripped when it rained. My husband worked as a construction worker, and I worked as a maid in wealthy homes in the area. When Leonardo turned 5, my husband died. He fell from scaffolding at a hospital construction site. He died that same night. I didn't get to say goodbye. From then on, it was just him and me. During the day, I cleaned floors and washed dishes in other people's houses. At night, I sewed clothes under the light of a kerosene lamp. Sometimes I washed sheets from a nearby hotel to earn a little more money. I remember one night of heavy rain, when the water came into the house up to our ankles. I carried Leonardo and spent the whole night standing on an old chair, afraid to sleep for fear of an electric shock. He slept in my arms, peacefully, unaware of how much his mother's legs ached. As long as you're okay, Mom can endure, I told myself. Leonardo was a good student. He got into university on a scholarship. Once he got dengue fever and was hospitalized for a week. I donated blood to pay the bill, but I never told him. I just wanted him to focus on his studies without worrying about money. After so many years of hard work, I managed to save enough to buy a small house. Just before Leonardo brought Renata home for the first time. "Mom, this is Renata. We're getting married," he said, his eyes shining. I smiled and nodded, although a knot formed in my stomach. On the wedding day, I gave Renata my mother's silver earrings, the only thing I took from my hometown. "Consider it a wedding gift. Keep them," I told her. Renata took them, barely smiling. "Thanks, Mom. They're pretty," but I knew she didn't like them. When Renata moved into the house, I moved to the laundry room. I put a twin mattress next to the old washing machine. "The house is small. I'm fine here," I told Leonardo when he asked. He nodded, saying nothing more. I remember when Leonardo and his wife were in isolation for COVID. I took care of Emilio for 3 consecutive days, made him corn gruel, changed his diapers, held him all night while he cried. I paid for all the hospital expenses, bought the medicine for both of them. "I'll handle it. You guys rest," I told Leonardo on the phone while he coughed nonstop. When they recovered and returned home, I handed Emilio over to Renata. She held him and turned away without a word of thanks. Leonardo just said, "Rest, Mom. We can manage on our own now." I stood there, watching them leave, not knowing what to say. I got up and kept dragging the suitcase toward the terminal. With every step, I thought about all the years that had passed. I worked, I sacrificed. For whom? Leonardo, for Emilio, for the family. But now, here I am, sitting on a bench, with a worn-out suitcase and a cold below. No one calls, no one asks where their mother is. I dragged the old suitcase along the highway, the dust sticking to my shoes. Each step felt heavy, as if I had stones tied to my ankles. But I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. The road was long, cars flew by, horns blared. I kept going, my gaze fixed on the ground, my hand gripping the suitcase handle. Suddenly, an olive green truck braked beside me, its tires crunching on the gravel. The door opened, and a young man stuck his head out, wearing a faded baseball cap. "Where are you going, ma'am?" he asked, his voice kind, though a little curious. I hesitated for a moment, gripping the suitcase tighter. "I'm just looking for a cheap place to stay for a few days," I answered in a low voice, not daring to meet his eyes. He nodded and opened the door. "Get in, ma'am. It'll take you to the outskirts of the city. Don't worry, I'm not a bad person." I looked at him, then at my worn-out suitcase. I had no other choice. I nodded, got into the truck, and put the suitcase at my feet. The seat had a tear, but it was clean. It smelled a little of motor oil. The young man started the truck and smiled. "My name is Tomas. I'm 35 years old. I haul cargo to Tepatitlan. What's your name?" "Elvira," I replied softly. "Thank you, Tomas." He nodded, looking at the road. The truck pulled away. I stayed, silent, hugging the suitcase. A little later, Tomas asked, "Are you traveling alone?" Aren't you with anyone? I sighed and answered in few words. At my house, there's no room for me anymore. My son asked me to leave, so I left. I said no more. I looked out the window. The cornfields flashed by. Thomas nodded, saying nothing more. He just commented, I understand. Sometimes life is like that, ma'am. He turned on the radio. An old ranchera song played, with a deep, sad voice. We didn't talk much, but that silence made me feel more at ease. We arrived in Tepoztlán close to noon. The sun was beating down. Tomas took me to a small inn, with yellow-painted walls, and a worn wooden door. Mrs. Juana, who ran the place, was behind the counter, her hair pulled up high, wearing a blue apron. Tomas told her, Juana, this is Mrs. Elvira. She needs a place to stay for a few days. Help her out, okay? Juana looked at me, then pulled out a key and placed it in my hand. Her voice was calm. If she's Tomas's friend, she can stay as long as she needs. Room 3, down the hall. I took the key and murmured, Thank you, ma'am. She nodded and went back to cleaning the counter, without asking any more questions. The next day, Tomas stopped by the inn, wearing his usual cap and carrying a bottle of water. I have time today. Do you need to go anywhere, ma'am? He asked. I thought for a moment and said, Will you take me to the bank? To Banco de Occident. It's close by. Tomas nodded. Get in, ma'am. At the bank, I handed my voter ID to the young employee. She typed into the computer and then said, Your account is still active. Ma, single quotes, you have 9.5 million pesos in a private investment fund. I nodded and asked to withdraw 50,000 pesos in cash. She handed me the money, which I carefully put in my purse. Tomas waited outside, leaning against the door, saying nothing. When I came out, he said, Keep that money safe, ma'am. Tepoztlán is quiet, but it's better to be careful. I smiled faintly. Thank you, son. I know. The following days I stayed at Donna Juana's inn, paying for the room promptly, not missing a single payment. Every few days, Tomas would pick me up and take me to the market. I bought a small pot, a used electric stove, some plastic plates. Are you going to cook, ma'am? Tomas asked when he saw me choose the pot. Yes, I want to make some broth. Sin. I'll be staying here for a while, I replied as I examined the pot. Tomas laughed. Your bean soup must be delicious. Invite me over someday, okay? One day he helped me fix the outlet in the room, which was shorting out because the wire was loose. This is easy, ma'am, he said, screwdriver in hand, and in a few minutes it was fixed. He also changed the lock on the door, which was sticking, and oiled it. I watched him, grateful. You're helping me a lot, Tomas, I told him. He shook his hand. It's nothing, ma'am. I have free time. One afternoon, I made some empanadas with ground beef and brought them to Tomas. We sat outside the inn, on some old plastic chairs. I handed him an He took a bite, chewed slowly, then he looked at me and said softly, She looks a lot like my mom, ma'am. She passed away years ago. The day I saw you dragging your suitcase alone down the highway, I couldn't just do nothing. I held my in my hand, unsure what to say. Thank you, Tomas, I said in a hoarse voice. I was lucky to find you. He smiled, nodded, and continued eating, saying nothing more. The next morning, the air was cool. I had just woken up, still wearing my old sweater, sitting by the wooden table in the room. The coffee I made yesterday was already cold, but I took a sip anyway. There were a few knocks on the door, and Tomas came in with 2 steaming coffees, and a sweet bread wrapped in paper. He smiled and put it on the table. I brought you this, ma, single quotes going to the bank again today, right? I nodded, got up to get my gray cloth purse. Yes, let's go, Tomas. I have some business to attend to. He waved his hand. No rush. Eat a piece of bread first. I bought it with bean filling. It's delicious. I smiled, took a bite of the bread. The sweet, soft flavor filled my mouth. Thank you, son. It's very good, I said, and took a sip of the hot coffee he brought. We got into the truck and went to the nearest Banco de Occident branch. Inside the bank, the air conditioning blew softly, and the tapping of employees' keyboards could be heard. I handed the young employee my original birth certificate, now yellowed, along with my ID. She, wearing glasses, typed for a moment and then looked up. Mrs. Elvira Moreno, right, your account is still active. It's a term investment with compound interest. The current balance is 9,532,800 pesos. I nodded, my voice calm. I want to withdraw a portion, 100,000 pesos, and divide it into 2 debit cards. The rest, please transfer it to a new account in the name of a non-profit organization." The employee wrote a few more lines and asked, "Do you need any other documents?" I shook my head. "This is fine, thank you." She printed the receipts, handed me to debit cards, and a wad of confirmation papers. I carefully put everything in my purse. Tomas was behind me, arms crossed, leaning against the glass frame. When I came out, he asked, "And what do you plan to do with that money, ma'am?" I nodded, gripping the purse handle. "I want to do something useful, Tomas. Not for me, for someone else." He nodded, without asking further, just said, "Then that's fine, ma'am. Let's go. I'll take you back." On the way back, I told Tomas, "Do you know a trustworthy lawyer? I want to handle the paperwork for a charity organization." He thought for a moment, then smiled. "Of course, ma'am. I know Mr. Romero. He's a good person. I'll take you to see him." We went to a small office on a corner, with light blue painted walls and a slightly faded sign. Mr. Romero, with graying hair and a white shirt, received us at his old wooden desk. "Tomas, long time no see. And this lady?" he asked, adjusting his glasses. Tomas replied, "This is Mrs. Elvira, my friend. She wants to start a charity organization." I sat down, took out the bank papers, and said, "I want to create a small organization. It will be called Arbol de Vida. I want to be listed as the founder, but from now on, all the invested money must be in the organization's name, not in personal accounts." Mr. Romero nodded and took notes. "Understood, Mrs. Elvira. I'll handle drafting the file according to the law. What kind of help will the organization provide?" I replied, "To homeless people, to those who need food. I don't have everything clear yet, but that's where I want to start." He smiled. "Perfect, ma'am. I'll prepare the documents for you. You'll have them ready in a few days." I thanked him, shook his hand, and we left with Tomas the next day. I told Tomas I want to look for a place to start over. "Do you know any suitable places?" He nodded. "There's an abandoned house near the town, at the foot of the hill. The owner died, and his nephew wants to sell it cheap. Do you want to go see it?" I agreed. "Take me to see it." We went in the truck, down a dusty red dirt road. The house was old, with faded walls and a roof of loose tiles. The yard was covered in weeds. I went inside, and the wooden floor creaked under my feet. "This place will do. If it's fixed up a bit, it can be lived in well," I said. Tomas nodded. "I think so too, ma'am. Let me ask the price." He called the owner, spoke for a while, and then told me, "They're asking 300,000 pesos. What do you think?" I nodded. "That sounds good. Transfer the money, no haggling." I paid at the bank and signed the papers the same day. The next day, we returned. I rolled up my sleeves and swept all the accumulated dust from the living room, removed the cobwebs from the corners. Tomas climbed onto the roof, removed a tarp covering a leak, and repaired the front door, oiling the hinges so they wouldn't stick. "The door is fixed now, ma'am," he said, opening and closing it several times. I smiled. "You work fast, Tomas." That night, I sat in the middle of the empty room, the light of a flashlight illuminating the stained walls. I opened my purse and checked. The 2 bank cards and the Arbol de Vida founding certificate were in place. There were no family photos, nor Leonardo's name. I put away my purse, lay down on an old sleeping mat, and listened to the crickets chirping in the yard. The next morning, while it was still dark, I got up early, put on my wool sweater and my old cloth hat. Tomas had already left early to deliver merchandise, so I took the truck on my own, wobbling on the dusty road to the small Banco de Occident branch in Colonia Americana. That bank was where I opened my account over 20 years ago, when I was just starting to work as a domestic helper to support Leonardo. The building was still the same, with white painted walls and glass doors, somewhat dulled by time. I went in and sat down in front of the service desk. The young employee, her hair pulled up high, looked at me courteously. I took a notebook from my sweater pocket, with a copy of my ID and the account number inside. "Could you check this account, please?" I said, and pushed the notebook across the table. She took it, opened it, and typed some data into the computer. "Mrs. Elvira Moreno, the account is active. It's a term investment. The balance is intact," she replied, printing a sheet and handing it to me. I glanced at it. It was still there. 9,532,800 pesos. unmoved. I want to withdraw 400,000 pesos in cash. Leave the rest there, I said in a firm voice. She nodded, wrote a few more things, and then asked, would you like to speak with a financial advisor to see how to manage this amount? I shook my head. No need, miss. I know what I have to do. She printed the additional receipt and handed me the carefully wrapped money. I put it in my gray cloth purse, checked the zipper, got up and said, thank you, miss. Then, I went out. The midday sun hit me full in the face. I took the truck back to Dona Juana's inn. She was in the patio watering some small cactus pots. I approached, smiled a little. Dona Juana, thank you very much for letting me stay this time. I've found a place, so I'm leaving. She stopped watering, looked at me with the watering can in her hand. And where are you going, Elvira? Do you need me to help you with anything? She asked in that warm voice. I shook my head. No, I'm fine. You've already been very good to me. She nodded and handed me a tamale wrapped in corn husks. Take this for the road. Consider it a farewell gift. I received it, thanked her several times, and left with my suitcase. I went to Santa Terry, a quiet neighborhood in San Antonio. I rented a small ground floor apartment with a green painted wooden door and a small patio in front. The owner, a gray-haired man, showed me the place. It's clean, ma'am. The contract is for 6 months. Can you pay in advance? He said, pointing to the kitchenette in the corner. Yes, I'll pay right now, I replied, taking the money from my purse and counting it exactly. He nodded, handed me the keys. Done. You can move in whenever you like. I signed the contract, put away the keys, and went in with my suitcase. Before going to the apartment, I stopped by an electronics store and bought a simple phone. One that only makes calls and sends messages. Shall I install a new chip for you? The salesman asked, holding the shiny black phone. Yes, put a new one in, I replied. He set it up and handed it to me. I saved only Tomas's number, no others. The old numbers, Leonardo's, in the old cell phone, tucked away somewhere in the suitcase. I stopped by the pharmacy to buy the joint pain medication, the same one I've been taking for years. The saleswoman, in a white coat, asked me, do you need anything else? We just received a new ointment, very good for joints. I shook my head. No, just this medication. Thank you. Then I went to the grocery store, bought soap, a new set of sheets and pillows, and a white ceramic coffee maker set. This set is really nice, ma'am. Your coffee will turn out great, the saleswoman said as she carefully wrapped it. I smiled. Really, that's good, I'll take it. That night, I walked to a small restaurant at the edge of the highway, with a blinking neon sign. I sat at a wooden table by the window and ordered grilled salmon, my favorite dish for years, though I'd never dared to order it to avoid spending too much. The waitress, a young woman, placed the steaming plate in front of me. Would you like anything else? We have very good fresh orange juice, she asked. No, this is fine, I replied, picking up my fork to cut the salmon and eating slowly. It had a salty, tender flavor that melted in my mouth. I looked around. The other customers were chatting animatedly, unaware of my presence. No one knew I had 9.5 million pesos. No one knew my own son had kicked me out of his house. I finished eating, paid the bill, left a small tip, and walked back to the new apartment, the shopping bag in my hand. I started fixing up the abandoned house at the foot of the hill. It was very old, with peeling lime walls, but I saw potential. Tomas called 2 of his friends to help. Aunt Elvira, this is Juan, a carpenter, and this is Miguel, an electrician, he said upon arriving, carrying his toolbox. Juan, a thin man with a straw hat, smiled. Whatever you want fixed, just tell me, I'll do it all. Miguel, younger, nodded. The wiring in this house is very old. It all needs to be replaced. Ma'am, I pointed to the house. I just want everything to be sturdy. The door is broken, the roof leaks, the lights flicker. Fix it all, please. Juan started measuring and rebuilding the doorframe with new wood. Miguel removed the old wires and put in new ones, muttering, this is very dangerous. As it was, the house could have caught fire. While they worked, I went out to the backyard to clean up a pile of trash accumulated over years. I filled bags with moldy plastic, dry leaves, and empty bottles, and stacked them by the gate. In a corner of a small room, I found a rotten wooden bed with broken legs. I destroyed it with a hammer and saved the planks that were still usable to improvise steps to the loft. The next day, I went to the nearby flea market and bought a used two-burner gas stove that still worked well. "How much are you offering, ma'am?" 2,000 pesos, asked the seller, a man in a torn jacket. I nodded. "That's fine, I'll take it." No haggling. I paid in cash and carried it away. Once home, I cleaned each old pot thoroughly, sharpened a rusty knife, and hung some kitchen towels on a new shelf. Little by little, it started to look like a kitchen. Tomas stopped by later, carrying a plastic box full of plates and spice jars. "Auntie, I found these at the market. They were cheap. Use them, they'll be useful," he said, placing them on the floor. I opened it and saw red and green plastic plates, and jars filled with dried chili, salt, tangyu. "Tomas, just what I've needed," I said, placing the plates on the shelf. That night, I cooked my first pot of bean soup in the half-painted kitchen. The aroma of beans mixed with the smell of old wood and floated throughout the house. At the beginning of the following week, I saw an elderly woman sitting by the road near the market, shivering under a blue plastic tarp. She was thin, with white, tangled hair, clutching a torn cloth bag. I stopped and asked her, "Ma'am, what's your name? Do you have a place to stay?" She looked up, her eyes clouded. "Isabella. My name is Isabella. I have nowhere to go, dear." I took her hand, my voice soft. "Come with me. I have a place for you." She hesitated. "Are you deceiving me?" "I have nothing, really." I smiled. "It's not a deception. Don't worry. Let's go." I took her home, prepared a bowl of hot corn gruel, and placed it in front of her. Isabella took the spoon and ate slowly, then suddenly burst into tears. Thank you. You are so kind," she said, sobbing. I touched her shoulder. "Eat peacefully. You are safe here. You can rest." I spread a sleeping mat in a corner of the room and gave her the only thick blanket I had. "Sleep here for now. Tomorrow I'll buy more things," I said. She nodded, hugged the blanket, and lay down. The next day, I saw a little girl standing outside the gate, her hair messy, her face covered in scrapes, and her clothes in tatters. She looked at me but didn't dare to come in. "What's your name?" "Come in, come to Grandma," I said, opening the gate. The girl murmured, "Rafaela. My name is Rafaela. I don't have a home." I went to the kitchen, took a bolillo, and wrapped it in paper, along with an old t-shirt I had just washed. "Here, eat this, and then come in to rest," I told her. Rafaela took the bread, hesitated for a moment, and then followed me inside. That night, I sat alone and turned on my old cell phone. I scrolled through some photos, until I came to one of Leonardo on his graduation day. He was smiling proudly, and I was next to him, in my old-fashioned dress. I started deleting the photos, one by one, without much thought. When a photo of Emilio appeared, hugging my leg, smiling with all his teeth, I stopped. My hand froze. I didn't delete it. I remembered his hug before I left the house. I remembered when he asked me, "Where are you going, Grandma?" He didn't know anything. He just thought I was going on a trip. The next morning, I wrote a note with a trembling hand. "For whoever has nowhere to return to, there is always a place here." I taped it to the gate. The rumor started to spread in the neighborhood. "There's a house that takes in homeless people." I stayed in the yard, watching the note flutter in the wind, and then went inside to continue cleaning. I started organizing community cooking activities. I went to the city hall with the Arbol de Vida papers. "I want to ask for permission to cook for homeless people, without charging them," I told the administrative employee, a middle-aged man with thick glasses. He reviewed the papers and nodded. "All right, Mrs. Elvira. I'll give you a temporary permit, but you'll need someone as a legal representative." I turned to Tomas, who was beside me. "Can you do it, Tomas?" He smiled. "Of course, Auntie. I'll sign for you." The official handed him the pen. "Sign here, young man." "Done. You can start immediately." We signed, received the permit, and left. Every noon, I cooked 2 large pots of soup in the newly renovated kitchen. 1 carrot and bean for the elders, another chicken and corn for the children. The aroma spread throughout the house. Those who lived there, like Dona Isabella and little Rafaela, waited in the yard with their plastic plates. "What soup is there today, Grandma?" Rafaela would ask, her eyes bright. "Chicken soup, your favorite, right?" I'd say, serving her a generously filled bowl. Dona Isabella would take hers and laugh with her toothless smile. "Mrs. Elvira, your soup is better than restaurant soup." One day, Mariangela, a nursing intern from the nearby health center, knocked on the door. She wore a white coat, a red scarf, and her hair was pulled up high. "Are you Mrs. Elvira? I heard you help homeless people." "I want to collaborate," she said enthusiastically. I invited her in, offered her a glass of orange juice. "Do you work at the health center?" "That's great you want to help, but do you have time?" Mariangela smiled. "I'm free in the afternoons, Mrs. Elvira. I know first aid. I can teach the children." I nodded. "Perfect. Come every week and teach them the basics." She nodded and squeezed my hand. "Thank you, I'll start right away." Shortly after, a young man in a blue shirt knocked on the door. "I'm Santiago, a reporter from Guadalajara. I was told you opened a house for homeless people without charging them. Is that true?" he asked, notepad in hand. I was peeling carrots in the kitchen. I offered him a chair. "Yes, it's true. Sit down. I'll tell you." He sat down and took notes. "Since when have you been doing this? Where does the money come from?" I wiped my hands on my apron and replied, "I just started. The money is mine, a lifetime of savings. I don't accept donations. I just help whoever needs it." Santiago nodded. "Can I write about you? People like you deserve to be known." I smiled. "Write whatever you want, as long as you don't bother anyone." A few days later, Santiago's article appeared in the Guadalajara newspaper, in the community section, with the title, "The Mother Who Doesn't Accept Donations, Cooks and Offers Free Shelter to the Homeless." Since then, more people started coming to my house. Mrs. Rosa, the owner of the bakery near the market, started bringing leftover bread every night. "Mrs. Elvira, this bread is still good, give it to the children," she'd say, leaving the basket on the table. I thanked her. "You are very kind, Rosa, I'll distribute it." The neighbors, who were initially hesitant, gradually started leaving rice, eggs, and bunches of vegetables in front of the gate every morning. I arranged them in the kitchen, noting everything in a notebook so I wouldn't forget anyone. I opened a life skills workshop. Mariangela suggested, "Mrs. Elvira, can I teach the children first aid, how to treat a wound, things like that?" I nodded. "Perfect, do it." I also want to open a cooking class for girls who dropped out of school. We prepared the classroom in an old room, repainted the lime walls white, and put up a blackboard. I put a photo of myself on the door, taken the day I bought the house, so everyone would know that this place was mine. One day, Mr. Pablo, the gentleman who used to leave eggs at the gate, took a photo of me in the kitchen and posted it online, with the caption, "Here, they call this woman Mom." The post went viral, boosted by Santiago's report. I didn't use social media, but Mariangela showed it to me. "Mrs. Elvira, you're famous now." I smiled. "Famous for what? I'm just doing my thing." But I never imagined that post would reach the people from my past. 3 days later, a silver SUV parked in front of my house. Leonardo got out, wearing a white shirt and with his hair combed. Bernarda accompanied him, dressed in luxurious clothing, a large LV logo on her chest. Carrying a folder of documents, Mariangela ran in and announced loudly, "Mrs. Elvira, there are people asking for you. They're at the entrance." I was washing a pile of trays in the kitchen, soap splashing on my sleeves. The smell of bean soup still hung in the air. There were plastic plates stacked on the shelf. I wiped my hands on my apron, furrowed my brow. "Who are they?" She shook her head. "I don't know exactly. It's a man and a woman. They look very elegant." I nodded, set the tray aside, and went out to the patio. At the entrance, Leonardo was standing, but avoiding looking at me. Renata was next to him, clutching a shiny black folder. The silver SUV gleamed under the midday sun, parked by the sidewalk. I opened the gate, without greeting, and asked directly, "What can I do for you?" Leonardo frowned, took out his cell phone, and showed me the screen with the post about me. "Where did that money come from, Mom?" he asked in a cold voice, without even saying hello. "It's not possible for you to run a charity house without accepting donations. You must have taken all the money Dad left and then fled. We have the right to claim our share." Renata chimed in, pointing at me, her voice shrill. "Exactly. I don't want to make a scene, but when it comes to money, we need to be clear. Tell us the truth. Where did all that come from?" I stood there, looking at them, with a twisted smile. "It wasn't out of amusement. When you kicked me out of the house, neither of you asked where I was going or if I had a place to sleep. And now that you see me doing well, you're interested in knowing where I got the money." A few days later, Santiago's report appeared in the Guadalajara newspaper, in the community section, with the headline, the mother who doesn't accept donations, cooks, and offers free shelter to the homeless. Since then, more people started arriving at my house. Mrs. Rosa, the owner of the bakery near the market, began bringing leftover bread every night. "Mrs. Elvira, this bread is still good. Give it to the children," she'd say, leaving the basket on the table. "Thank you, Rosa. You are very kind. I'll distribute it among the boys," I'd reply. The neighborhood people, initially suspicious, gradually began leaving rice, eggs, and bunches of vegetables in front of the gate every morning. I stored everything in the kitchen, noting it down in a notebook so as not to forget anyone. I opened a life skills workshop, Mariangela suggested. "Mrs. Elvira, can I teach the children first aid? How to treat wounds? That sort of thing." "Very well, do it," I told her. "I also want to open a cooking class for girls who dropped out of school." We prepared the classroom in an old room, painted the lime walls white, and put up a blackboard. I placed a photo of myself on the door from the day I bought the house, so everyone would know this was my place. One day, Mr. Pablo, the gentleman who left eggs at the gate, took a photo of me in the kitchen and posted it online with this caption: "Here, they call this woman Mom." The post went viral, fueled by Santiago's article. I didn't use social media, but Mariangela showed it to me. "Mrs. Elvira, you're famous now." "Famous for what?" "I'm just doing what I have to do," I told her. But I never imagined that post would reach the eyes of those left behind. 3 days later, a silver SUV parked in front of the gate. Leonardo got out, wearing a white shirt and with his hair combed. Renata came with him, dressed in elegant clothes, a huge LV logo on her chest, a folder in her arms. Mariangela ran in and shouted, "Mrs. Elvira, there are 2 people asking for you outside." I was in the kitchen, washing the lunch trays, with soap splashed on my sleeves. The smell of bean soup still hung in the air. There were plastic plates stacked on the shelf. I wiped my hands on my apron, furrowed my brow. "Who are they?" "I don't know exactly. A man and a woman." "Very well," she said. I nodded, put down the tray, and went out to the patio. Leonardo was outside, but he wasn't looking me in the eye. Renata was beside him, hugging the black folder to her chest. Their SUV gleamed in the sun. I opened the gate, without greeting, and asked directly, "What do you want?" Leonardo frowned and showed me his cell phone with the post about me. "Where did that money come from?" "Mom," he asked, cold, not even greeting me. "You can't possibly have a house like this without accepting donations. You must have kept everything Dad left and fled. We have the right to claim our share." Renata stepped forward, pointing at me, her voice shrill. "Exactly. I don't want to make a scene, but when it comes to money, we need to be clear. Tell us the truth. Where did all that come from?" I stood there, looking at them, with a twisted smile. "When you kicked me out of the house, you didn't even ask where I was going. And now that you see I'm doing well, you're interested in knowing where the money came from." Renata lost her composure, stepped up to the gate, and shouted, "You stole the inheritance, didn't you? Don't think we don't know. We can sue you. Even the media will know." Leonardo pulled her by the arm, lowering his voice. "Calm down, Renata. Mom, clarify this. That money belonged to Dad, didn't it?" I went inside, took out a folder from my gray cloth purse, and came back. I handed them the papers, the house deeds, the Arbol de Vida Incorporation certificate, bank statements, everything. "In my name. Sue me," I said, my voice firm. "Here's everything in writing. I'm ready to face anything." Leonardo took the papers, reviewed them in silence. His face darkened. Renata snatched them, flipped through them, and shouted, "You think this proves anything? We're going to get a lawyer." I crossed my arms, looking her straight in the eye. "Get one. I'm not afraid." What did I do wrong to have to be afraid? Leonardo was silent for a few seconds, then said, in a low, resentful voice, "I can't believe you did this to your own son." I looked at him without answering. I walked to the gate, took the iron bolt. Before closing it, I said my last sentence. "Ask yourselves why you threw your mother out of the house. A house I bought with the sweat of my brow, and you kept." I closed the gate. The clack of the metal sounded dry. Through the gap, I saw them stay for a few minutes. Renata paced back and forth, gesticulating, muttering. Leonardo answered her in a harsh tone. Finally, they got into the SUV and drove away with a roar of the engine. I went back to the kitchen, continued washing trays as if nothing had happened. Mariangela approached, asked softly, "Who were they, Mrs. Elvira?" I dried my hands and replied, People from the past. It doesn't matter anymore. She nodded, said nothing more, and returned to help me with the cooking. One winter morning, the cold air seeped through the door. I was serving soup when Donna Isabella entered with a crumpled newspaper. She handed it to me, her voice trembling. Mrs. Elvira ... Is that your son? I took the newspaper. Leonardo's photo jumped out, his face gaunt. Below, the headline read, "Employee accused of embezzlement at construction company, sentenced to 2 years in prison." I looked at it for a moment, then folded the newspaper and placed it on the table. "Yes, it's him," I said, my voice neutral. Donna Isabella looked at me. "Are you okay, ma'am?" I nodded. "I'm fine. Let me get back to cooking." She didn't ask any more questions. She left in silence to the patio. I continued working. I cooked, cleaned, expanded the shelter. I welcomed more homeless people from the area, prepared more sleeping mats, blankets, and plates. Every day I cooked 2 large pots of soup, one for the elderly, one for the children. The house became more crowded, but everything started to fall into a rhythm. I adopted Tomas as my son. One afternoon, when he arrived with a water jug, I sat him down. "Tomas, I've seen you as a son for a long time. Would you like to be my adopted son?" I said, handing him a cup of coffee. Tomas smiled and scratched his head. "Mrs. Elvira, that touches me deeply. Being your son is an honor." We went to the notary together, signed the papers, and finalized it that morning. Since then, Tomas came more often. Sometimes he fixed a leak. Other times he installed the water heater or watered the cactus pots in the patio. "Ma'am, this pipe is old. Let me replace it with a new one," he'd say, wrench in hand, bent under the sink. I'd smile. "You do everything so quickly. Tomas, whatever I need, I know I can count on you." 3 years later, one weekend morning with cold air, Anna, the young woman who helps me at home, ran into the kitchen with an alarmed expression. "Mrs. Elvira, come quick to the gate. Someone wants to see you." I dropped the wooden spoon, wiped my hands on my apron, and went out. In front of the gate stood a dirty man with a grown and unkempt beard, carrying a child. I looked closely and recognized Leonardo with Emilio in his arms. The boy was taller now, but looked thin, his face pale. Leonardo took a step towards me, his voice hoarse. "Mom, I need you to take care of Emilio for a few days. Renata ... left with someone else. I just got out of jail. I lost my job because of the embezzlement. Emilio has severe asthma, no insurance, and we've been sleeping in a park for 3 nights. I looked at Emilio. He coughed nonstop, clinging to his father's body. "Why didn't you take him to the doctor sooner?" I asked. Leonardo lowered his head. "I don't have any money, Mom. I'm just asking you to take care of him for a while. I'll find a way to survive. I promise I'll come back for him when I'm better." I looked at Leonardo, then at Emilio. "Come here to your grandma, son," I said, opening my arms. The boy ran towards me and clung to my legs. I went back inside and yelled to Anna, "Run to the pharmacy. Buy the asthma medicine the doctor prescribed last time, and prepare some corn gruel and warm water." "Yes, I'm going right now, ma'am," Anna replied, without hesitation. I took Emilio to the room, sat him on the sleeping mat, and cleaned his face with a towel. Leonardo stayed outside the gate. He didn't ask to stay. "I'm leaving now, Mom. I'll be back," he said, turning away. I didn't respond. I just watched him until his figure disappeared around the corner. That night, I sat by the window, mending a torn shirt of Rafaela's. Emilio slept soundly on the sleeping mat. After taking his medicine, I looked at him, his curly hair falling over his forehead, and continued sewing, with firm stitches. Anna came in with the bowl of leftover corn gruel. "Has the boy fallen asleep? Shall I prepare some milk?" "No need. Let him rest. I'll take him to the doctor tomorrow to get him checked," I replied. Anna nodded, left the bowl on the table, and went out. I woke up when the sunlight filtered through the crack in the wooden door, illuminating the sleeping mat where Emilio slept. He looked better now, after several days of care. I heated water in the white ceramic pitcher and bathed him, carefully cleaning each little finger. "Grandma, the warm water tickles me," he said, laughing, splashing the floor. I laughed with him, wiped his face with a towel. "Stay still, my little kitten. Otherwise, it'll take me all day to clean you." Then, I washed his clothes, and hung the small t-shirts on a clothesline in the yard. The wind made them dance in the air. In the evening, I sat next to him and opened an old storybook. I read about a stray cat looking for treasure. Grandma read the part where the cat finds his friend. He asked, his eyes shining, grabbing my blouse. I nodded, my voice slow. Very well. The little cat found a big dog, but he wasn't afraid, because a good friend doesn't have to be big. Emilio snuggled against my chest, listening in silence, until he fell asleep, hugging my arm. I looked at him tenderly and whispered, "Sleep well, my love." That night, he slept peacefully, like a kitten, his breathing soft and even. A week later, as I was sweeping the patio, I heard footsteps outside the gate. Leonardo was there, in a wrinkled shirt, a cloth bag in his hand, and a gaunt face. "Mom, I've come for Emilio," he said in a hoarse voice, not looking me in the eye. I stopped sweeping, leaned the broom against the wall, and shouted inside, "Emilio, come here." The boy ran out, clung to my leg, and looked up. "Grandma, can I stay with you?" I stroked his head and said softly, "You're going with your dad, my love. I'll visit you often, okay?" Emilio pursed his lips, his eyes about to cry, but he nodded. I gently pushed him towards Leonardo, looked at him, and nodded. "Go, son. Take good care of the boy." Leonardo nodded, murmuring, "Yes, Mom." I started shining shoes. I earned a little money. I didn't answer him. I just watched them as they walked away, until their figures disappeared around the corner. A few days later, I was chopping onions in the kitchen when Anna ran in, nervous. "Mrs. Elvira, the same man from before is outside, and he has the child." I dropped the knife, wiped my hands on my apron, and went out. Leonardo was there, with Emilio in his arms. The boy was coughing nonstop, his face was pale, and he was spitting phlegm. "Mom, Emilio is very sick. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to take care of children," Leonardo said, his voice trembling, hugging the boy tightly. I approached Emilio, touched his forehead. It was burning. "Anna, bring me my purse, quickly," I yelled, then took Emilio in my arms without letting Leonardo touch him anymore. "He's staying here. I'll take him to the hospital," I said in a firm voice. That Leonardo stood still, whispering, "Thank you, Mom, ... I have no one else." I didn't answer him. I took Emilio in the truck and we went straight to the nearest hospital. At the hospital, the doctor examined Emilio, listened to his lungs, and prescribed asthma medication. "The child needs rest and to take his medicine on time," he said, handing me the prescription and the documents. I signed as responsible and was registered as his legal guardian. "Thank you, Dr. Pro. Take care of him," I said, collected the medications, and took him with me. Leonardo walked behind us, but I didn't look at him. I just focused on calming the boy. "Calm down, my love. Grandma is here." That night, Emilio slept soundly on the sleeping mat, his face less pale. I sat by the window, mending Rafaela's torn shirt, the dim lamplight casting shadows on the wall. Leonardo knocked on the door, entered the patio, and sat on the stairs, his head bowed. "Mom, I made a mistake. I know I did everything wrong. I'm not asking for forgiveness, but will you give me a chance to start over?" I stopped sewing, looked at him, then went to get the work flyer Anna had brought from the Central Market. I gave it to him. "There's work at the terminal. Go yourself. I'll take care of Emilio. But you, get up on your own. Don't expect anything from anyone." Leonardo took the flyer, read it in silence, then looked up. "I understand, Mom. I'll try. I just want Emilio to be okay." I nodded, my voice even. "Taking care of the child is my responsibility. You take care of yourself." He said nothing more. He stood up and left the patio without saying goodbye, without turning his face, and I didn't need words. As they say around here, it doesn't matter which door closes, as long as you are the one to open the next with your own hands. I returned to the room, tucked Emilio's blanket in, touched his forehead. He no longer had a fever. "From now on, I'll be with you, my love," I whispered. The boy smiled in his sleep, as if he heard me. I sat down to finish sewing, knowing I had chosen my life again. I was no longer anyone's mother, just the woman who holds the key to her own house. 2 months passed. I kept busy at the shelter, cooking soup, distributing used clothes, teaching the children how to tie their shoelaces. Leonardo started appearing every Sunday morning. He'd stand in the patio, without touching the gate. I'd see him from the gap, old shirt, hands in his pockets, playing with Emilio. "Dad, let's play soccer," the boy would shout, rolling the plastic ball towards him. Leonardo would crouch down and kick it gently. "Okay, but slowly, or Grandma will scold us." I'd watch him from the kitchen, through the window, without coming out. He didn't ask for food, he didn't ask to stay. After an hour, he'd ruffle Emilio's hair and say, "I'm leaving, son. I'll be back next week." The boy would nod and run to hug my legs. I set clear rules. One day, I called Leonardo to the corner of the patio and handed him a handwritten sheet. "If you want to visit Emilio, that's fine, but no more than an hour, no gifts, and no talking about the past. Understood?" Leonardo looked at the sheet and nodded. "I understand, Mom. I just want to see the boy." I also nodded, my voice firm. "Then do it right. Don't make me repeat myself." He said nothing more, turned around, and left through the door. Mariangela noticed. Once, while we were having coffee in the kitchen, she asked me, "Mrs. Elvira, don't you want to give him a chance to start over?" She stirred her coffee, the red scarf hanging from her neck. I put down my spoon and replied, "Look, life doesn't always give second chances. Leonardo has to get up on his own. He can't depend on me anymore. Like the prickly pear in the yard, if it wants to live, it has to find its own water." Mariang nodded slowly. "You're right, ma'am, but you're so strong. I've learned a lot from you." I smiled faintly. "You're young, live with truth, and life will take care of teaching you." I decided to hand over the treehouse. I went to the notary in Zapopan with the organization's papers. The notary, a man with salt and pepper hair, reviewed the documents and asked, "Mrs. Elvira, do you want to cede it completely?" I nodded. "That's right. I'm transferring it to the local community fund, but with 3 conditions: no privatization, it cannot be sold, and no one from my family can be listed as administrator." He took notes, adjusting his glasses. "Very clear. I'll prepare the document. Come back next week to sign." I thanked him. "Hurry it up. I have other pending matters." He smiled. "Don't worry, I'll have it ready soon." I returned home and called Mariangela and Anna to the classroom, where the freshly painted wall gleamed. "Girls, I'm handing over the treehouse to you to manage," I said, extending the papers to them. Mariangela was surprised. "Ma'am, you're leaving. You won't be here anymore." I nodded. "I'm taking Emilio to Oaxaca. We're going to start over. Take care of this house. Keep helping those who need it, okay?" Anna nodded, her eyes red. "We'll do it right, ma'am. You can rest assured." Mariangela took my hand. "You are like my mother. I won't disappoint you." I patted her shoulder. "I trust you." I packed my things, a couple of changes of clothes, Emilio's storybook, and my joint pain medication bottle. I carried it, and we took the bus towards Oaxaca. The boy was beside me, looking out the window. "Grandma, are there many trees in Oaxaca?" he asked. I laughed. "Yes, my love. Many trees, lots of sun, and good people." We arrived at a small town. I signed an agreement with a group of local women to support the opening of a weaving workshop. "Mrs. Elvira, with your investment, we're going to set up a big workshop," said the group leader, in her vibrantly colored embroidered skirt. I nodded. "You do your work well. I just want to see good products come out." Emilio adapted quickly. He played with the town's children, learned to read at the little school, and every night he'd ask me, "What are we cooking today, Grandma?" "I want tamales." I'd stroke his head. "Chicken tamales. How does that sound?" The boy would nod enthusiastically, hugging my leg. I no longer thought about Leonardo. It wasn't necessary. As they say around here, a closed door doesn't matter if you can open a new one with your own hands. At the inauguration of the Menos Libres Free Hands Workshop, I stood under a wooden sign that read, "The doors that open are worth more than those that closed." The group leader pulled me to the front and passed me the microphone. "Mrs. Elvira, say a few words. You made this possible." I took the microphone and looked at the audience. "I just want to say that anyone can start over, as long as they have the courage to take the key to their own life." The people applauded. Emilio ran to hug my legs. "Grandma, you're the best." I stroked his head, smiling. I didn't look back at the past. For the first time, I was no one's mother, no one's wife, no one's burden. I am Elvira, the woman who holds the key to her own life. We tell this story based on real events. Names and places have been changed to protect the identity of the person involved. It is the story of a mother who sacrificed her entire life for her children and grandchildren, and in the end was despised, used, and abandoned. But when she had nothing left to lose, she rose up, and this time, she lived for herself. We don't tell it to judge, but so that whoever listens will stop to think. How many mothers are suffering in silence within their own homes? Now, I'm curious about you. who are listening to my story, what would you do if you were in my place? Have you experienced anything similar? Leave it in the comments. In the meantime, I'll leave you on the end screen with 2 other favorite stories from the channel, which will undoubtedly surprise you. Thank you for staying until the end.